Hello, everybody. This is the Peaceful Revolutionary today doing another recording, and I'm doing something special again because I'm going on holiday next week for about 11 days. So I'm recording the video for today. This is the one, and I'm recording two other videos to make sure you guys have content to check out for the next couple of weekends while I'm gone, and I'll be back on the 7th of September. So 3 videos today, which is unusual. I don't really usually do this, and I do the time lapse. I kind of prepare them, shoot them off on YouTube with a timestamp so it kind of gets published at the right dates, so you guys have something every weekend to check out. Anyway, today, or for today's video, the one that's going to be published today, I won't tell you what I'm going to do for the other 2 weeks, even though they're prepared. Today's video is about some proof essentially from the from the CIA essentially that was declassified because of a lawsuit that I can't find the information. Anyway, there was a lawsuit in the States recently that forced, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, some of these documents to be declassified and produced by the U.S. government. And essentially it supports the notion very clearly that the West supported the creation of ISIS, wanted ISIS to be created in eastern Syria, northern Iraq, in order to destabilize the current Assad regime in Syria. Now, why they wanted the destabilization of the regime? It is not because they thought Assad was particularly bad, even though like a lot of stories say that he's done some good and bad things, of course, just like Hussein in Iraq, did good things and did terrible things as well. I don't want to get into that discussion about Assad, but the thing is that the U.S. government's intention was clearly to destabilize the government. And you got to understand, Syria has borders with Israel, and we know U.S. and Israel has very strong ties, and stability or control in the area near Israel is really important to a lot of a lot of Americans, like Congress. There's a lot of Jewish congressmen, for example, that have ties in Syria, for example. I think more than half of the Congress actually has Jewish ties of some sort, one way or another. I don't have them. I don't want to get into that either. But I mean, there's a very strong ties. There's a lot of money that goes into Israel from the U.S. and back and forth. They're allies essentially, right? So having a control on the government of Syria is of an advantage, or at least having them as a puppet. And also, Syria has borders with Iraq. Which also is of interest to the U.S. government, again, to exert control over in Iraq, and also very near you have Iran. So of course the U.S. government, in its foreign policy of trying to manipulate and control every country in the world for the natural resources and to take every political and economic advantage in the world, and also being able to put military bases wherever they want in the area, to point at Russia perhaps, or at Iran, or whatever else. I mean, they want all that stuff. But they tell the American people that they're going there to fight ISIS. And yeah, they've been fighting ISIS, kinda. But they really want to support the rebels. That's their purpose. And the established ISIS-controlled areas essentially are not the same areas as the rebels. You have groups in Syria that are there because there is a rebellion. They are fighting the government. They're fighting the regime because they're unhappy. It's a civil war, right? And then you have ISIS, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, the Salafists, Al Quaeda in Iraq, and these kind of groups that were originally separated. And formed ISIS later on, a few years ago, in 2012-ish, from what I can see. I mean, they're interested, they have separate interests. Of course, they want to control of the country, but for different reasons, okay? You understand? They may be unhappy about the regime or not, but they want to have control because they want to have control, power, right? So it's a power play for them. Now, so this is a big mess, and it's a foreign mess. It's a Syrian problem, essentially. It's an internal problem. The U.S. went in there, and the documents are showing that they've known about the situation in Syria being a problem when they were in Iraq and the war of Iraq, because they were very, very close. So they evaluated that, and the chief of intelligence at the time has gone on television several times and has explained that they're gathering information. They knew the situation was there. They gave information to the government, the U.S. government, Obama and possibly Bush prior, and the administration chose to use that information for the purposes that we know that I just described, where it was very, very clear that if the U.S. was in support of the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria, because it would have been like if there was some support, they would form a state in eastern Syria, most likely. And then they would try to it would be a good way to destabilize the regime if that would happen. Now that was the information provided by the CIA to the government. The government decided, well, okay, that's a great idea because we want this control. We want this to happen. So here are the statements. I'm showing them on screen here from the documents, but I also have links to some articles that contain that information as well. And down below, you can check that out as well. So in yellow, you see in the documents that was declassified, the Salafists, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Al Quaeda in Iraq are the major forces driving the insurgency in Syria. So they're kind of, well, they want it to happen, right? And then the West Gulf countries and Turkey support the opposition. And the opposition in this case is the opposition to the regime. That's the context, which is the Salafists, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Al Quaeda in Iraq. Now, elsewhere in the documents, again, this is another shot here. You can focus on this in yellow. If the situation unravels, there is the possibility of establishing a declared or undeclared Salafist principality in eastern Syria. And this is exactly what the supporting powers to the opposition wants. Again, this is U.S., some of the Gulf countries, and Turkey, in order to isolate the Syrian regime. Okay? And then later on, ISI, so an Islamic State, could also declare an Islamic State through its union with other terrorist organizations in Iraq and Syria. So these documents were written by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency in August 12, 2012. That was years before ISIS burst into the world stage, and it became a thing. And then we started, getting terrorist attacks that were flagged ISIS instead of Al Quaeda. And as you know from my videos, for a lot of them, I'm very suspicious that some of these terrorist attacks were actually staged by the U.S. powers and they blamed ISIS for them, or staged a claim from ISIS that they did it in order to continue justify the actions they're having in the Middle East, like in Syria, to continue that support of the opposition to get Assad out and ideally set up whatever position of power they want, or put their figurehead that they want, their puppet that they want. Now, the Russians and the Chinese, interestingly, have entered that stage as well in support of the regime. I don't know, I don't have any information or proof or anything about their motivation, but I'm suspecting they also are fighting ISIS, either because they say they're concerned that ISIS may spill over into Russia, which is not that far. That may be true or not. But I think Russia and China and others that are supporting the regime are doing it politically, really just because they want to counter what the West is doing, because they're at a crossroads. Like, they don't like what the U.S. is doing as a foreign policy. They never did, and I understand them. They don't want the U.S. to actually succeed in in setting up their power. So they want the regime to continue, not because they like Assad necessarily, but because they want to counter what the U.S. is trying to do. And in the meantime, what's really sad and what we need to cry out about with when you have these great powers that are kind of tackling a problem that is essentially a localized civil war, but for their own benefit, is that the Syrian people are suffering a lot more for it. And it's reinforcing some of these terrorist organizations' position as terrorists against the West, against the East as well, against Russia and all these countries, right? So the West may feel nasty repercussions that are real, not staged, but real terrorist actions from ISIS and these groups, because the major powers are fighting over, Syrian oil and political influence. This has to stop, boys and girls. We are peaceful revolutionaries. We won't ever take arms for any reason against anyone. But we have a voice. We have to distribute our discontent and our criticism and our disgust about this. And we have to choose politicians through a voting process that is currently in place. We can't change it just yet. We have to replace it. We can't change it just yet. But vote into place politicians that want to change these, that want to bring back the soldiers, that want to stop messing around with other people. It's creating massive loss of life and potential danger for the citizens in the West, and more danger in the Middle East, the people that are there. And we're killing civilians when we're trying to when we're attacking ISIS, mind you, because collateral damage, those happen. Well, we shouldn't be there. We should not be there. The West should not be there. Russia shouldn't be there. I suspect Russia wouldn't even be there if the U.S. wasn't, because it's just a political play again. They're playing with lives, guys. For sure, the rebellion, the civil war within Syria between the regime and the rebels, that in itself costs lives, but it's localized. And countries and peoples have to resolve things for themselves, for their own reasons, and set up their own government systems and economies that they want on their own. They don't need the West to be to make them puppets and take control subvertedly. So advertise, do the best you do, guys. Advertise this video, other articles, social media, talk about it. But for real, like we need to take action politically. Like in the States, there's a big election coming up very soon. It's probably going to be Hillary Clinton versus Trump. I believe both would be terrible as presidents. As far as foreign policies, it's possible Trump would be better choice, maybe. But I mean, if I could magically influence the population of the states, I would ask for no one to vote, and kind of destabilize the whole voting system, so that a good president with good intentions that would take care of the American people and try to save lives would be put in place. Perhaps under a different system that is where the corruption can be removed. That's a tall order, mind you. But that's if I had a magical wand, that's what I wanted to do. But you guys can protest this by not voting if both or if all candidates are crap. Vote for the one that will do the right thing. And if you absolutely need to vote because of some principle, well, choose the one that'll do the less harm. But really, that's kind of bad. I mean, honestly, it's if a president is going to do harm to anyone on the planet or elsewhere, for that matter, you shouldn't be voting for him or her at all, because that's just basic, isn't it? It's not about like we have to distance ourselves from the bullshit that the politicians are putting in the media itself. We have to look for ourselves, find the right information, and decide for ourselves, well, if, vote only for something that's going to create a positive, that's going to be good, and if that president or prime minister or whoever it is doesn't do what he or she said they were doing, you should impeach right away. There should be change right away. There should be a clear message. The population has that power. You just have to have the guts to do it and not fall into the groove of being sheep and just doing it because you've done it before and you think nothing's going to change. Well, that's the attitude that makes sure that nothing changes. You guys know this. All right. So this is it for now. I'm hoping this is going to get distributed and the information is going to get distributed. Let's stop these actions. I talk about this all the time. Let's get going. Let's take action again, and let's create this, if possible, this global interconnected team of peace revolutionaries that only direct their actions toward good, higher science, higher knowledge, higher consciousness, and changing systems that are bad into better systems. If enough of us are grouped together, we can do it. And we don't need to be part of a team or organization and not for profit. We just need to be connected to the internet, this wonderful tool we have right now. Let's do it, guys. So I'll talk to you next time, and have a couple of more videos coming. So I hope you'll enjoy them. They're very different topics, and I'll see you, I guess, kind of live, I suppose, with fresh videos that are directly off the presses when I'm coming back in early September. Ciao for now. Have a good one.